Aloha, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report. So this time it's a 1250 point campaign game. It will be my Dark Elves versus the hated High Elves. So I'm really excited about this game. It's the first time I'll be playing against High Elves outside of a team match I think I did in November. So here we go. Just a reminder, this is a campaign game, so our army composition will be different from what you normally see. The campaign allows us and limits us in different ways to field armies that you may not have seen before. So normally we're not allowed to have a lord level choice unless of course that lord is our general of the campaign, and if that general dies you are out of the campaign. But my opponent does have a lord level choice because he has a territory that contained the Holy Temple, and the Holy Temple allows him to take one Wizard Lord character in games and it won't count against him. So that's what he's going to have. So he's going to have a very big advantage in the magic phase, but at the expense of having to spend all those points, he's going to be less flexible than I will be. In addition, we are playing at 1,000 points base. I say 1250 because we are allowed to spend up to 250 points worth of gold into our armies so that we can supplement them, make them bigger. So we will have different sized armies. I think I end up bringing 1107. My opponent brings around 1050, I think, or somewhere around there. So I will also have a slight points advantage on him. So let's go ahead and jump into deployment. Here's my opponent's entire army. First he has the bolt thrower on the hill, then in front of that he has his fast cav, and then over on his flank he has his one unit of Sea Guard, and inside that Sea Guard is both his level 4 wizard and his BSB. The Dark Elf raiding force consists of 5 Dark Riders here on the flank. Then I have another unit of Doomfire Warlocks with a level 2 wizard attached, and another unit of Dark Riders. And then I have a Hydra, 17 witches, and in that unit is my general, a Death Hag. I scout ahead a unit of 10 Shades, and then we go to Vanguard moves. He moves his fast cav like so, and then you can see how I move mine in relation to his. So here we go, let's go into turn 1. Okay, so Dark Elves do win the roll for first turn, and the game plan I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm going to knock out these 2 peripheral units and then use my superior speed to get into that Sea Guard's blind spot and just shoot him. After a couple turns, the witches and Hydra will finally get to the Sea Guard and there won't be much to clean up. I go ahead and move the Shades forward. I'm going to get into a great position and shoot them all game. And then my combat units move forward. So let's go ahead and jump into magic. Okay, so what I'm really looking to do is to cast Doombolt. I need to kill off the fast cav as soon as possible, so I do cast Wild Form first, hoping he'll try to dispel it. He does, and he does dispel it, and then I get off Doombolt. I then, as you can see here, kill off the fast cav, and then with all my shots from the Dark Riders, I'm able to do the 2 wounds to the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. The Shades are able to kill off a couple more of the Sea Guard, and we go into High Elf turn 1. Alright, so we go into High Elf turn 1, and there's only 1 unit left, so there's not going to be a ton of movement. He's going to stay there, get ready to shoot. He jumps into the magic phase almost immediately, and in the magic phase I kind of play it very sloppy. I have it in my mind that I'm just going to outshoot him. There's nothing he can really do about it, and I'm going to engage him on my terms, and I'm just going to win. I can do no wrong, I'm just going to win. I find out though that when you have Hand of Glory on a unit that you will probably outshoot me because he kills a little over 1/3 of my witches, and this was a little bit below average. I think he should have killed about 2 or 3 more, so this has got me a little bit worried. Unfortunately, that worry doesn't really translate into changing my tactics, so I'm going to go ahead and continue going into Dark Elf turn 2 with my goal of just surrounding and shooting him. So that's what I do. I line everything up for a shooting attack. We go into the magic phase, and I'm really just going to cast Soul Blight so that I can improve the damage that my shooting does. And then we go into the shooting phase. So the first thing I do is I'm going to lay down the flame template with the Hydra. Now, to no fault of my opponent, it's all on me actually. He gets a 2+ ward save against this flaming attack because I thought in my mind that the Banner of the World Dragon I know gives a 2+ ward save against magic. I also thought, since it says the word dragon, it translates in my mind flaming breath, dragons, flaming breath equal the same. You get the 2+ ward on that too. My opponent's fairly new. I doubt he knew the exactness of the rules for that one banner. So when I told him that, yeah, you definitely get a 2+ ward save against this, he went ahead and took it because I'm the guy that should know the rules. And so he takes a 2+ ward against the Hydra. So, you know, we do misplay this, but it's not my opponent's fault. It's actually all mine. Otherwise, I go ahead and I unload all the rest of my shots into the High Elf unit, and I do some pretty good damage where I still feel like I'm definitely going to outshoot this guy. Alright, so we go in High Elf turn 2, and he pivots his unit on the spot so that he can see both the witches and the shades that have been shooting him in the flank. And after he does that, he moves to go into the shooting phase, or magic phase. So in the magic phase, I learned the hard way that I was playing way too arrogantly in the first turn, and I really needed my Dispel Scroll this time. He gets off Fiery Invocation, or Convocation, I forget which one it is, and he also gets off Tempest, and he does some damage. And man, I'm starting to get a little bit more worried where I realize maybe I've been playing this wrong. I'm not going to be able to outshoot him. He's going to be able to practically wipe out a unit, or at least neuter them a turn. And so yep, there you go. You can see the shades get hit with the Fiery Convocation, and of course the witches here get shot to death. Alright, so we go into Dark Elf turn 3, and with visions of my Hydra going in and just whiffing his attacks and then losing on combat res and being run down by the High Elves, I go ahead and slam some free points in there too. So the witches are going to go in there, do as much damage, try to pump up that combat res so the Hydra doesn't just break and die. And we're going to go ahead and jump into the magic phase now. Alright, so Fiery Convocation is still on my shades, but they have now broken and they're under 25%, so I'm not going to bother dispelling it. I really just want to get one or maybe both, if I'm lucky, of my my augment spells in to help the combat in my favor. I do get off Soul Blight, and we go into combat. In the combat, he offers a challenge with his champion. I have to accept the Witch Hag. I easily kill the champion off. Here's a look at the view of after the combat. I'm able to kill quite a few of the High Elves, and my Hydra takes a wound, and because she was in a challenge, my Witch Hag survived. Okay, so we go into High Elf turn 3, and I guess we just jump straight into the magic phase. There's not much for him to do. He is able to get off a direct damage spell because he knows I'm going to focus on the Hand of Glory spell. Unfortunately, he's not able to do any damage with it, and so we go straight into combat. He's able to kill the Witch Hag off. Unfortunate, she is my general, but I'm able to kill a score of High Elves. We go into Dark Elf turn 4, and at the time, I don't feel like I'm ever winning this by a lot. I am killing guys in droves, but it seems like combat res is always making it to where I'm winning by 2 or 3, and then he's just sticking. And so all it takes is for me to whiff one turn, and I'm screwed. So I charge in the Dark Riders to get that combat res up. I go straight into magic, as you can see here already, and I pretty much seal it with another Soul Blight. Getting that off really helped. We go into the shades. The shades finally die here because I haven't been trying to dispel Convocation. They were dead to me already, and so we go into combat. I circle the Dark Riders around, the Doomfire Warlocks. We go in combat, and I kill everybody except for the characters, and they stick on a 3. I think they lost. They needed a 3. Let's just go with that. So after that, we go into High Elf turn 4. And again, there's nothing he can do. He only has 2 models left. They're both in combat. He goes straight into magic. He gets a pretty good magic phase, but he doesn't have a lot of options. I'll go into that right after we resolve the game here. But remember, he goes Tempest first, and Hand of Glory gets dispelled. I'll tell you why he did that order. In combat, I'm able to kill off the level 4. And finally, the BSB was devoured by the Hydra. So there you have it. The Dark Elves pull this off. It was a sweet, sweet victory, especially since it came at the expense of slaughtering my fellow brothers, the High Elves, the weak, cowardly High Elves. Of course, you know, let's be fair, they weren't very cowardly. They did stick to the very last elf dying in combat. So that made the game very fun. You know, early on, I did think I was going to win this very swiftly, very swiftly, I guess is the best way to put it. And slowly that became apparent that that was not going to be the case, that I was going to have to commit a little bit more than I had anticipated. So, I hope you enjoyed that battle report. There is one last thing I want to touch on before I let you guys go. It's a rules questions about the High Elf's magic. Maybe somebody out there has a good answer for it. Alright, so let's go ahead and just jump into it. The spell I am concerned about is the spell Tempest from High Magic. And so Tempest is a direct damage spell, and as being a direct damage spell, it does have some rules that apply to it normally. and those are that the target must be within the wizard's forward arc. The wizard doesn't necessarily have to have it in line of sight. The target has to be within the spell's range, and the wizard cannot target spells at units engaged in close combat. And then it further reiterates that fourth point within the actual subsection of direct damage, especially when it comes along or goes along the lines of templates. So we have that down, and then when we think about what a spell is, we can go to page 31 and also read that to cast a spell, a wizard nominates one of his spells to cast and declares the target of the spell. So these are a couple things to keep in mind. The three most important things is that the rulebook states that you pick a target for your spell, that the target has to be within the forward arc of the wizard, and finally that you can't target units in close combat. So when we consider that, and then when we read Tempest, and we see that you place a large template anywhere within 30 inches of the wizard, do we take that to mean the word anywhere as a sort of alleviative term to all the limitations that are applied to the direct damage spell? Or is it a very particular word that only alleviates one portion of the limitations, and that portion being the actual targeting of a unit? Because that's the base rule for any spell, is you pick a target. Now, as we understand it, not all spells actually pick targets. Is this one of those rules that are saying, hey, you don't actually pick a target? However, the anywhere stops there. It doesn't necessarily undermine the actual limitations or other additional rules. Let's not call those last two things limitations, but the additional rules of direct damage, which are that they have to be within the forward arc, and they can't cast into close combat. So we kind of went gray area on this rule in the game. We kind of cut it in half. It's not a very good solution, but it doesn't bother me. As long as we stay consistent, it's okay with me. But I am curious to see what other people think. Do you guys really think that anywhere is actually anywhere, or is it anywhere without picking a target, but still subject to the rules of casting spells? So, yep, love to hear some feedback on that. Let me know how you guys play it, if it even comes up. I mean, Tempest isn't like the greatest spell in the world, but thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this part. So again, I want to thank everyone and say that I'm very appreciative of everybody's comments, subscriptions, and likes, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.